Hello, and welcome to the Tulsa Scene Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Sanford.
And I am Stephanee KOCKELMAN. And today we have Alexi Foster, psychotherapist by trade, energy healer by nature, and helper of humankind by design.
I'm so excited to have Alexi on today. She has such a positive energy, and I just love how just her passion for helping people out of their circumstance. It's really amazing.
I'm excited too. I can't wait to jump in.
So before we get started today, we'd love for y'all to go follow our podcast, like and subscribe. Go look at our website so you can find out more information about what's going on in the Tulsa area, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. So how has your spring been? How's everything going?
It's going really well. I can't believe it's spring.
Right?
I mean, it's been spring for a whole month, or almost a whole month now. And yeah, it's flying by.
And you have a little one.
In April already.
Right? You have a little one. So how was Easter?
Yes, I have a 4-year-old, and yeah, we did a little bit of traveling over Easter, and that I'm kind of over. I mean, I loved seeing family, but the traveling part is hard.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Especially with kids. Do you do that at Christmas too, or no? Do you have to travel?
We did do it at Christmas. Yeah, we did do it at Christmas, but the difference is my husband and his, my older stepchildren were with us, so it makes it a little easier when we're all together. This past weekend, it was just me and my daughter, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
It's not easy.
Do it.
So I have a 3-year-old grandson who will be 4 in October, and I cannot imagine traveling long distances with him. So kudos to you for being brave to take that on.
Thank you.
Well, and especially with the last year that we've had. So tell us how you have been able to pivot with your business. Tell us what you're doing, what's going on with Healing Actually.
Yes. So Healing Actually is still remaining true to its initial mission, which is to help women release toxic patterns and to heal from toxic relationships, whether that be romantic or familial or even friendships, even work relationships.
Right, yeah.
Kind of help them untangle some of that stuff and really provide some healing and growth and evolution from there. So we're still definitely committed to that purpose, although we have realized we can really serve in multiple different ways. Also, we can do that in a lot of different ways. And one of the things that we're seeing, especially with COVID, especially with the pandemic, and people are isolated a little more, is providing resources to help people understand how their body system and their brain chemistry works in the body, and how to utilize that, hack that to feel good, to feel better, and to kind of calm some of the anxiety and depression that is still increasing or has increased over this past year.
Right.
And it was already high. It was already high in our country.
Right.
And then it's increased from that. So.
Well, that's amazing to give people the tools to do it, especially, I mean, I have anxiety, always have. And, like when you need to calm yourself down, you need to calm yourself down. Like, you don't have time to, call a therapist, get in, all of that kind of stuff. So I love that you're giving people the tools so they can help themselves, especially through this time when we're all isolated in our house.
Yes, and that's actually how this came about. So I have anxiety too. I've had it from a young age, didn't realize it, of course, looking back, then you notice things and you see that. So I've done a lot of work to manage my anxiety and to really take good care of myself. And then the pandemic hit last year, and my situation was I was newly married, but my husband was working in the oil field. And so he was out of town for work. He was gone. And then my daughter's dad and I made the decision to keep her out of daycare for 6 weeks. So we have 50-50. So half of my schedule was all her. And then the other half of my schedule was moving my private therapy practice online completely. Wow. So I was, trying to figure out these two very different things. And it was a lot all at once. And I found myself, plus, of course, Plus the stress of a pandemic. We don't know anything about this. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on. You know, especially at the very beginning, there's a lot of talk about how we don't know how deadly the coronavirus is.
Yeah.
And I myself was just having such a hard time managing my anxiety with all of that, with such a quick transition, feeling isolated. I was isolated, not just feeling isolated. And then I was like, okay, I am not okay. I need to figure this out. And I really, as a therapist, I have access to certain resources that not everybody does.
Sure.
And so I just went to work. I dug in. I knew where to look, first of all, because that's half the battle right there, is even knowing where to look for what you need. And I started utilizing these different things. And then I realized people need this information.
Right.
They need a roadmap, so to speak. So I started working on this training and putting it together. And even as I was putting it together, I went back and did some edits on some of the different videos for this training. And I was doing the exercises while I was listening back to them, you know, for editing purposes. And I was like, oh, this is so good. This works, you know? So
I love that you're inspired by your own help. That's great.
Right? You know it's good when you heal yourself. You know you're good when you can heal yourself and then take that practice and teach other people so they can heal themselves. I think it's honestly amazing.
It's pretty genius.
Well, we should all be able to heal ourselves, and that's a learning process, and it's ongoing too. Like I'm trained in this. I have a master's degree in counseling, and I have a decade of experience in the counseling field, and that means 10 years of ongoing training also that I have to do to keep up my license.
Of course. Wow.
So like I'm plugged in, right? But everybody can do this for themselves. Everybody can, you just have to learn how to do it. You just have to learn the tools. And that really is, I am so passionate about helping people plug in to learn how to do this for themselves, to learn where these resources are, and to be able to for themselves, to be autonomous in that way.
I love it. You know, one of the things that I find with myself is when just even identifying it, like I'll get so anxious and get just so overwhelmed. And by the time I get there, I'm like, you know, this has been happening. Like, you know, so one of the things that I read and have started to implement is, you know, just like paying attention to how you're feeling in situations. Do you know what I'm saying? Like how, when you get that gut feeling, you know, or you just, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, just that when that anxiety starts creeping in, to really stop and look at all the situations, you know, and like break it, like, why am I feeling this way? You know, and then try to put in place steps to, you know, help that for now and next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a skill that you can learn how to do. And then you can practice. And the more you practice doing that, the easier it becomes. And then the more quickly you will notice things. So you're kind of saying like, oh, I'm stressed out. And then I realize, oh, I've been stressed out, right? So then you're doing your work trying to pick up on it sooner, right? So you might be like, oh, you pick on it the same day. I've been stressed out for a few hours. So that's progress over realizing you've been stressed out for days or weeks, right?
Right.
And then eventually you get to the point where you notice exactly when you get triggered. You're like, I am stressed out right now. What just happened to trigger that in me? You know, and then you can process it right there. You can work it out right there. So you're not carrying it so long and having to unravel so much, because you just do it in the moment. And that, again, that's a skill that you practice, and you get better at it. And if you stop practicing it, then you lose it. You know?
Right.
That is really good stuff. I can tell that you are just this well of amazing knowledge that can really help people through their day-to-day life. I think that's great. Can you tell us a little bit more about Healing Actually? How did it start?
Yeah, Yeah, so I have my private therapy practice is completely separate. That's its own business. That's like, and all that is just my therapy practice, and I have that established. And then Healing actually is a newer company. It's a baby company. I established it in May of 2018, and originally was looking at it, I guess, as I was looking at it kind of as a way to do life coaching separately from counseling, and then it has definitely evolved and pivoted from there. Originally, I wanted to look at helping people create habits, like create better habits to have the life that they want to have. And as I kind of was looking at that, I realized, well, part of that, and the first thing that maybe is a little more important, to start out at least, is addressing why you have the current habits you do have. Addressing kind of like that, the conditioning that you have.
Yeah.
And just diving more into that, I realized I am so passionate about teaching people how to embrace their healing journey, to be able to acknowledge where they need healing, because everybody does. As human beings, you can't get through this life without getting a little shook up in at least one area at some point in your life, right? And we carry those things with us. So helping people to identify that and to be able to let those things go, so we're no longer carrying the emotional baggage, and to then from there, take responsibility for oneself, and then to continue the process of unlearning these things that we've been conditioned to accept or to behave or to think in certain ways that really no longer serve us.
Isn't that crazy? I love it. I love it, because one of the things that I've noticed, like when you get to that point, like you start getting really uncomfortable. Do you know what I'm saying? When it's that time to kind of like level up, and you start feeling that, and then like these are such great tools to get to that next, that next level, and just kind of clean up your mind, your environment, because I don't know about you. Mindset is such a huge thing for me. I have to constantly like check it, make sure that I'm putting positive stuff in my mind constantly, or I get so overwhelmed and the anxiety really starts creeping in.
Right. And I think the timing of everything is really unique for your business too, because this is something that you started before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And now more so than ever, people are feeling this anxiety, but yet not a lot of people are able to just get out and go and see someone. So the fact that you do what you do, and you also have pivoted to allow it to be done virtually, I think is wonderful.
Yeah.
I think it's genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, it's important too to kind of to distinguish, the trainings that I'm putting together online are things that anybody can utilize, and then once someone purchases a training, they have access to that forever, for life.
That's awesome.
So they can always, always, always go back to that. And then also, when you think about going to counseling, if you think about going to therapy, you're looking at having a diagnosis, like you're being treated for a specific diagnosis. Well, the trainings are geared towards human beings, whether you have a diagnosis or not. Here's how the body system works, and if you're having, this particular issue, or you're having difficulty, if you're feeling more overwhelmed lately, and that's not enjoyable, it doesn't feel good to be overwhelmed, then here are some things that you can do and start incorporating on a daily basis and practice them daily or multiple times a day until you start feeling better, and then you go kind of like maintain that feeling better, feeling good kind of a thing.
I love it. I really love it. I think that I haven't heard you mention one time, I'm not saying that medication doesn't have its place, but I feel like so many people just really just turn to that first, and there's no working through it. So I feel like it gives you the immediate relief, but not the sustainable, calm, just peace of mind that most people are looking for. So I love how this empowers you to, take back control and get some techniques, work on those techniques to be able to calm yourself down. Plus, I know it affects your health.
Yeah, I'm not a medical professional, so I definitely, I can't say anything about medication. I definitely do encourage people to work with a doctor or a psychiatrist if they feel that they are needing medication. And I don't think that's wrong.
I don't either.
And I do know that the medication really is just to help you raise your baseline, but there's other things that you've got to do if you really want to raise your mood levels or decrease stress and anxiety. Like it's not just, medication is not the be all end all.
100%. Like I am not saying at all that it's wrong or, anything.
Right.
I've been on it. I mean, went through a, horrible divorce. I totally get it. But I also know that, sustained stress affects your physical, health, your mind, I had my stomach was, I can't even tell you, just how horrible, I felt all the time, chronic migraines, stomach issues, like all of it. And I'll tell you this, I mean, now it's completely different. So also in meditation, and get rid of whatever is in your life that is causing you.
That's pretty critical.
Some of it is divorces. Some of it is moving out of your job onto something else.
One thing that I really like about what you do is, so automatically right now people have a tendency to feel alone, right? And when you think of mental health, people feel like they are alone, that they are the only one in this world experiencing the pain that they're experiencing. So you combine those two together, and then you have financial stress, and then that turns into relationship stress. It's just this, huge melting pot of it's just like the perfect storm that nobody wants to have. But for you to have an online community of resources for people to go to, that kind of lets them know you're not alone. You're not the only one who's going through this. So I love that.
And furthermore, it's totally normal that you are experiencing what you're experiencing, because anybody, any person, like what you just said, that perfect storm, any single one of us in that perfect storm is going to be feeling the exact same way.
Right. I love it. And I love that the material you're able to keep, because what a great way to also help other people, your children, use that, use that material. And when they start inevitably, running into issues in their young little life, then you can pull this out and, have those resources before you have to set up appointments and get them in. I don't know. I just think it's a great way to help teach them the tools that they need for the future.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So absolutely, that's the intention.
It sounds like you're doing a great job with that. I do have a question. Okay. What is one common myth about your profession or field that you would really like to take a moment to debunk?
That if you have to go to therapy, or if you're having emotional issues, that there's something wrong with you.
I like that. Yeah.
And it's tricky because, when you go to therapy, your therapist has to treat a diagnosis. Like, we're required to have treatment plan and goals, and part of that includes diagnosing you, right? So it's kind of frustrating because, so there's going to be a diagnosis that you're, going to be treated for, but all that means is that you meet a list of criteria that falls under this category. That's all it means. There is nothing wrong with you. Your brain is working the way it's supposed to. Your brain is adapting, and then sometimes that creates symptoms that are unpleasant, that are maybe troublesome, and then you want to find a different way to handle things. You want to not behave that way. You want to not have certain coping skills that you may have picked up along the way.
I love that.
We all do it. We all pick up coping skills that really are not in our best interest, every single one of us.
Right.
And we can all stand to unlearn those and then learn some healthier coping skills.
It's true. It's so true. Oh, it's so true. So tell our listeners where they can find more information. Where can they reach out to you? Sign up for any programs or courses or classes. Where can they find out about what you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. www.healingactually.com. So it's HEALING actually. And then also on Facebook and Instagram, we are listed under Healing Actually as well. We've got a Facebook page and an Instagram.
Awesome. And we are going to share all of this information and have links to everything on the podcast. So we will push that out and make sure that all of our listeners know exactly where they need to go to get these techniques and get trained.
Awesome.
And before we end this conversation, is there anything else that we need to know? Anything else you would like to share?
Absolutely. So I end every training that I do, every video or podcast that I do, I like to kind of end and just remind you that you are amazing.
Aww.
You are wonderful. You are enough just as you are in this exact moment.
That is beautiful.
I needed that more than what I could probably convey. So I just need to know, how much do I owe you for today's session?
Right? I'll invoice you. No, and I'm sending you virtual hugs too.
Oh, ditto.
I'm sending you hugs.
Thank you for joining us for the Lifestyle Scene.
We hope you enjoyed today's segment.
I'm your host, Jennifer Sanford with Beyond Blinds. We are Tulsa's one-stop shop for all of your window covering needs. Whether you're looking for blinds, shutters, shade, or motorization, Beyond Blinds has got you covered. You can find us at www.beyondblindsok.com, where you can go and schedule your complimentary on-site design consultation.
And I am Stephanee KOCKELMAN with Let's Go Urban, where it is our mission to bring people together for fun with our app-based and self-guided scavenger hunts. They are perfect for any kind of group outing, party, fundraiser, or even corporate team building event. You can find us at www.letsgoandhunt.com.